Aston Villa lodging a formal complaint against the Premier League after a refereeing mistake in their final game away against Manchester United that could cost them £100 million and beyond, and the allure of Champions League football for new signings and, you know, keeping the sponsors happy. The ramifications of that defeat to a Manchester United, a team they were absolute massive favourites to beat. It's huge. It's absolutely huge, and we're going to talk about it today. So, guys, welcome back to Football Yannick. How you doing? I'm going to get it in early. Apologise. I am lucid to the fact how my Premier League review has an audio issue. A couple of minutes in, that lasts for a couple of minutes. Unfortunately, the file was corrupt, and if you do watch it, I'll just skip those early minutes and get to the juicy bits later on. I do apologise, and hopefully this video will have good audio throughout its entirety. Guys, the Premier League season has finished, but stories are only just heating up. Big stories like this we're about to get into, transfer stories, and beyond, Club World Cup, internationals, all of it. And I'd love to take you through it here on Football Yannick. So thank you as always to everyone who support the content, who's subscribing, who's dropping a like on this video, because that is appreciated. And we've done it! 70, I've just checked as I'm recording now, speaking to you, we've gone over 17,000 subscribers. That's nearly 1,100 in the last 28 days. Amazing momentum, amazing. Thank you so much. Road to 20,000 subscribers on this channel, where I often upload multiple videos a day because it's such a great platform for me just to talk football with you guys, the big stories. So we're going to get into it now. This is the story on Aston Villa. I'm going to read you a little bit from Sky Sports, their story, and I'm going to talk about the general situation here because it is wild. So Aston Villa, of course, lost 2-0 to Manchester United at Old Trafford and missed out on Champions League football on goal difference. So had they even drawn, and this was a game they were favourite to win, they would have pushed Newcastle United out of the top 5 and they would have qualified for UCL. So Morgan Rogers' goal in the 73rd minute was controversially disallowed, but VAR did not intervene due to the whistle being blown. Aston Villa have made an official complaint to the PGMOL over the selection of the referee, a chap called Thomas Bramall, for their Premier League final day match, of course, against Man United, which Champions League chasing Villa lost after a goal was controversially ruled out. Of course, the defeat saw Villa move to 6th in the league, meaning they missed out on Champions League football, where just a point was necessary to get them to clinch the qualification. I'm going to talk about the ramifications in just a moment. In the first half, after the first half sending off goalkeeper Emi Martinez, Villa's 10 players thought they had taken the lead in the second half when Morgan Rogers poked the ball free from Altay Bayindir and curled it into the open net, only for Bramall to disallow the goal for an alleged foul on the United goalkeeper. He actually blew the whistle before the ball went into the back of the Manchester United net, which is a salient point here, because if he blows it afterwards, VAR can get involved because it's crossed the line. It's gone over, like, you know, Hawkeye or whatever, and they can be, hold on there, that's a goal. But because he blew early, he won early, They couldn't get involved. Look, first of all, a really important element to this game is, of course, there was a Matty Cash back pass where, for the first time in his career, Emi Martinez got a red card. He went out and took it out of Rasmus Højlund. Of course, the joke is it can't be a clear and obvious goal-scoring opportunity because it's Rasmus Højlund, and it would have been on a wide angle on his weaker foot. Doesn't work like that. It's nothing to do with the player ability, as of course was a huge talking point with the Erling Haaland one recently. In the final, wasn't it? The cup final. So so that's where the talking points are. You got to feel bad for Emi Martinez. There's talk that he's going to leave as well, so that could be his last action for Aston Villa, condemning them to big, huge financial problems. But you know, they dug in, Aston Villa. They didn't concede, and of course that Rodgers goal would have put them in the Champions League, because I don't see them conceding multiple goals after that to Man United. I just simply don't, even with a man down. The action itself, it's a strange one. Look, I think because Bayindir has been poor, like Onana, and of course there's a story there as well. Like Garnacho as Onana on his way out in the summer. Bayindi's had a difficult season. You've probably seen the action. He sort of has it in his hands, but he's not holding it under control. Because if you've got both gloves on a football and someone kicks it out of your hand, that's a foul because you're holding it in control. Otherwise, all the time when a goalkeeper's looking, footballers would just be getting their legs in the air and trying to kick it out of their hands. I don't think it's open for interpretation. It was a mistake because he didn't have it in his control. So Rodgers was like, "Thank you very much, mate," and took it and scored into an open net. It should have been a goal. It wasn't. And then, of course, 10-man Villa suffered an away defeat at the hands of Man United, getting Amad Diallo scoring, and then they got a penalty, which, of course, saw... It was Ericsson that converted, who is another player leaving. Loads of players leaving this summer. And yes, Unai Emery, surprisingly magnanimous in his post-match media, especially if you look at him on the touchline at Old Trafford. He looked like he was going, "Chicken Oriental, mate." So I thought he was going to be fuming, but he said, "Look, it's a refereeing mistake." So they've launched a complaint to the Premier League because he's a relatively inexperienced referee by all accounts. It could have so been avoided had he just wait to blow his whistle after the ball crossed the line or something. It's very, very tough. It is tough. It's one of those situations as well where it's the rules that are dumb. It's kind of like, linos having to wait to put their flag up, and we see Taiwo and Awoniyi nearly, die essentially with a life-threatening injury colliding with the post. They'll offer you sort of reasons, logic behind why the rules are where they are, but it's just silly and causes big problems. A life-threatening injury, and indeed a massive, massive financial ramification here for Aston Villa, which we're going to get into in a second, but I'm going to sip my coffee first. Right! The Champions League is the promised land. It brings over £100 million worth of revenue. It puts you in a position where you can... And £100 million in a single isolated campaign is massive. And if you think about bookkeeping and the sexy stuff about football, the accounting, if you buy 5 £100 million players, yeah? So you spend £500 million on players and sign them all on 5-year deals, you can amortize those costs over 5 years. That's for 1 year, £500 million players is 100 million. So it's like bringing in, we can buy 5 Florian Wirtzes this summer. Obviously, you're not going to do that because you're not silly. You're not going to spunk your load on, excuse me for the terminology, on all in one campaign. But it's a highlight. It's a demonstration of how much £100 million immediate cash injection is into a campaign. Of course, it's good because your sponsors will be happy. Because if you're playing at the Champions League on the biggest stage of the world's eyeballs looking at you with their brand on the front of the kit or the side of the kit or the pre-match shirts when they're training and warming up, the sponsors will be happy. The sponsors will probably give you bonuses, extra money. You might be in the moment of negotiating a new deal, like for example Chelsea are. Now Chelsea are in the Champions League. They are in a stronger position to negotiate a long-term sponsor after Damac. So it's an example of how hugely beneficial it is for football clubs. Now, Aston Villa, out of all the teams chasing, now I basically include Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Forest, and Villa themselves. A lot of teams, of course, the permutations on the final day. For them, it's the most damaging. It's the most catastrophic, and this is why it's such a big story. Because obviously, any team... This would be the same story. It'd be in Sky Sports headlines, front page, whatever. But for Villa, it's huge because, like I've previously referenced and covered on the channel, they spend like 90% of their turnover on player wages alone. And that's by far the most in the Premier League, more than anyone else. So they're really putting the farm. They're putting their bets on getting there this season. And if they done it, it'll be fine. But if they don't, it's huge. It's huge. Not just because they can't get the players now, they're probably going to have to sell. Just even the vibes is going to be nowhere near, because obviously they had that amazing experience in the Champions League this season. They probably thought, right, let's qualify again. Let's bring in an extra couple of players. Let's go. We're part of the furniture now. So the vibes is damaged. The sort of psychological side to it is very frustrating for them as well. And it's huge. And that's why I'd be making this video in any other situation. If they just got battered by Man United deservedly, that would be a story in itself, of course, but I'd be making this video for those financial reasons and why that's a huge story. But the fact how it's happened essentially because there's an inexperienced ref that made a refereeing decision that could really cause huge problems for this Aston Villa team. It's a massive story. So we'll see what happens. I will, of course, follow all the developments here on the channel. There'll be all kinds of stories, probably more different football stories coming out today. So do consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell if you do choose to subscribe. Thank you to all 17,000 plus of you. Thanks for dropping a like on the video. I'll always welcome your comments, and I hope to see you back here very soon. Peace.